This is something most people only understand after it's already too late. Workplace burnout doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't hit you all at once. It creeps in slowly, stage by stage, through habits and patterns that feel completely normal, right up until the moment you completely collapse. Psychologist Herbert Freudenberger identified exactly 12 stages people move through before they hit total breakdown. Today, we're walking through all of them, what each stage looks like, what it means, and what you can do to stop it before it stops you. And you can't fight what you don't recognize, so let's make sure you can recognize it. Stage 1, the compulsion to prove oneself. This is where it all begins, and ironically, it starts with something that looks really positive on the surface: ambition. Stage 1 is that intense drive to prove your worth. You want to show your boss, your colleagues, your family, and yourself that you have what it takes. You're motivated, you're energetic, and you are all in. The problem isn't the ambition itself, it's the compulsion behind it. Freudenberger noted that this stage is often driven not by healthy confidence, but by a deep need for external validation. You don't just want to do well, you feel like you have to prove something. That's a subtle but critical difference. Think about someone who just got promoted or started a new job. They're the first one in the office and the last one to leave. They volunteer for every project, skip lunch to keep working, and say yes to every single request, not because they love the work, but because they're terrified of being seen as not good enough. Catch yourself and ask, am I working from a place of passion or a place of fear? Start setting small, intentional boundaries early. Your worth is not determined by how much you produce. Practice recognizing your intrinsic value separate from your output. Journaling, therapy, or even talking to a mentor can help anchor this. Stage 2, working harder. Once that compulsion to prove yourself kicks in, the natural next step is working harder. More hours, more effort, more output. You become obsessive about the job. You can't let anything go undone. You start taking on tasks that could easily be delegated because deep down, you don't trust anyone to do them right, meaning as perfectly as you would. This is the beginning of overcommitment. Your brain starts to equate busyness with worth. The more you do, the more valuable you feel, which is a dangerous feedback loop. A project manager who starts answering emails at 10 p.m., a teacher who spends every weekend creating lesson plans that go above and beyond what's required, a salesperson who makes calls on their days off, not because they were asked to, but because they feel they have to. This is the perfect time to audit your workload. Write down everything you're doing and ask honestly, what on this list actually needs to be done by me? Start practicing delegation. It doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're smart enough to know what's sustainable. Stage 3, neglecting their needs. By stage 3, work has become the priority, the only priority. And everything else, sleep, exercise, relationships, hobbies, meals, those start getting shoved to the side. You convince yourself they're luxuries you can't afford right now. I'll sleep when the deadline is done. I'll call my friend after this project. I'll go to the gym next month. Your basic human needs are no longer competing with work. They're losing to work. Your body and relationships are starting to pay the price, even if you can't see it yet. Someone who used to go to the gym 3 times a week suddenly hasn't gone in 2 months. They're eating lunch at their desk, scrolling through emails. They've canceled plans with friends multiple weekends in a row. They tell themselves it's temporary, but temporary keeps getting extended. Schedule your personal needs the same way you schedule meetings. Put your workout in your calendar. Block off dinner with your family. These aren't optional. They are maintenance for the machine that runs your career. Without you functioning, there is no work. Stage 4, displacement of conflicts. Now things start getting a little darker. In stage 4, you begin to sense that something is wrong, but you can't quite put your finger on what. You feel unsettled, anxious, on edge, and instead of recognizing it as overwork, you start blaming other things. Your relationship, your coworkers, your apartment, your body. This is psychological displacement. Your mind knows there's a problem, but it's pointing the finger everywhere except the real source. This makes it incredibly hard to address the root cause. Someone who starts snapping at their partner for small things, picks fights over nothing, or develops physical symptoms like headaches and stomach issues, but writes all of it off as just stress, without ever tracing it back to the 60-hour work weeks they've been pulling for 3 months straight. Start a stress journal. Every time you feel that anxiety or irritability spike, write down what you were doing just before it hit. Patterns will emerge. The goal is to reconnect the dots between your emotional state and your work habits so you can address the actual problem. Stage 5. Revision of values. In Stage 5, your personal value system quietly starts to shift. The things that used to matter, family time, friendships, creative hobbies, rest, now feel less important. Work has become your primary identity, and everything else feels like a distraction from it. You're not making a conscious choice to abandon your values. The reprogramming is happening subtly, day by day. And it's one of the most dangerous stages because it deepens the hole you're already digging. Someone who used to leave work at 5 p.m. to coach their kids' soccer team no longer makes those games. Someone who used to paint on weekends hasn't touched a brush in a year. They don't feel sad about it in the moment. They just feel numb. I'll get back to that stuff eventually. Reconnect with your original values intentionally. Ask yourself, what did I care about before work took over? Make a list. Then pick one thing from that list and schedule it this week. Rebuilding identity outside of work is crucial to surviving burnout. Stage 6. Denial of emerging problems. Stage 6 is where denial moves from the background to the foreground. You're clearly struggling. You're short-tempered, exhausted. Your performance is actually starting to dip. But you refuse to admit any of it. You blame others. You tell yourself and everyone around you that you're fine, that you just need to push through. The ego is in full protection mode. Admitting a problem feels like weakness, so the brain doubles down on denial. The danger here is that this denial actively prevents you from getting help. The colleague who snaps at people in meetings and then says, "I'm not stressed, I just don't have patience for incompetence." Or the manager who misses 2 project deadlines and says, "It's the team's fault, not mine." The blame always goes outward, never inward. Find one trusted person, a friend, partner, therapist, or mentor, who you can be honest with, not to vent, but to genuinely ask, "Do you see anything I'm missing?" Sometimes it takes an outside mirror to see the full picture. Vulnerability here is not weakness, it is survival. Stage 7. Withdrawal. By Stage 7, you've started pulling back from the world. Social invitations get declined. You stop reaching out. You avoid conversations that don't relate to work. You may even become isolated at work itself, closing the office door, skipping team lunches, communicating only through email when you could just walk down the hall. Withdrawal is a coping mechanism, but a destructive one. The very relationships and communities that could pull you out of this spiral are being cut off one by one. Someone who used to be the life of the group chat has gone silent for weeks. A normally collaborative team member stops sharing ideas in meetings. Someone who used to stop by a coworker's desk for a chat now walks past with their head down, headphones in. Force gentle social contact, even when you don't feel like it. You don't have to attend a party, but text back a friend. Have one real conversation this week. Social connection is clinically proven to reduce cortisol and restore mental health. You don't have to explain yourself. Just show up. Stage 8. Obvious behavioral changes. Now the changes are visible to people around you. Friends, family, and even coworkers can clearly see something is wrong. Your personality has shifted. You might be cynical, bitter, aggressive, hopeless, or completely flat in demeanor, a stark contrast to who you used to be. The psychological weight has become too heavy to hide. Your baseline emotional state has fundamentally changed, and the people closest to you are starting to worry, even if they don't say it directly. The upbeat, enthusiastic team leader who is now sarcastic in every meeting. The kind, patient employee who now responds to questions with visible irritation. Family members start asking, "Are you okay? You just seem different lately." Listen to the people around you. When someone says, "You seem different," don't dismiss it. They're not attacking you. They're sounding an alarm. Consider reaching out to a mental health professional at this stage. This is no longer something a vacation can fix. It requires real intervention. Stage 9. Depersonalization. Stage 9 is when you start to feel detached from your own life. You go through the motions of work, relationships, and daily activities, but it feels like you're watching yourself from a distance. Nothing feels meaningful. You lose sight of your own needs, and you lose the ability to recognize other people as fully human. They become obstacles, problems, or just parts of the machine. This is a clinical symptom. Depersonalization is your mind's emergency response to sustained, overwhelming stress. It's the brain essentially dissociating to protect itself. A nurse who used to feel deep compassion for patients now views them as just tasks to complete. A teacher who once loved connecting with students now sees them as annoyances. An executive who has stopped caring whether their decisions affect people's lives. This stage requires professional support, full stop. A therapist trained in burnout or trauma can help you reconnect with your sense of self. Alongside that, remove yourself from the environment as much as possible. Medical leave, if available, should be seriously considered. Stage 10. Inner emptiness. In stage 10, there's nothing left. You feel hollow. A profound emptiness has settled in where your passion, motivation, and purpose used to live. To cope, many people turn to external stimulants: food, alcohol, online shopping, scrolling, anything to feel something. This is one of the most painful stages emotionally because the numbness is punctuated by moments of desperate craving for relief. The coping mechanisms people reach for at this stage often create additional problems: addiction, financial stress, health issues. Someone who used to go home and unwind now drinks 3 glasses of wine every night just to feel normal. Someone who used to have a healthy diet is now binge eating late at night in silence. Someone who spends hours scrolling social media, not for enjoyment, but just to feel less alone. Seek professional help immediately. Talk to your doctor. This stage cannot be self-solved with willpower. Therapy, medication, support groups, all are valid and important options. Your body and mind are screaming for help. Please listen. Stage 11. Depression. By stage 11, clinical depression has set in. You feel hopeless, exhausted in a way that sleep can't fix, worthless, and unable to see a path forward. Getting out of bed is a battle. The future feels dark. The world feels pointless. This is a medical condition, not a character flaw, not laziness, not weakness. Depression at this stage is a direct result of a sustained, unaddressed overload on the human system. It requires medical attention. Someone who calls in sick for days at a time, not with a physical illness, but because they genuinely cannot make themselves get up. Someone who cries without knowing why. Someone who has lost all interest in things that once made them laugh, connect, or feel alive. Please speak to a doctor or mental health professional. If you are in a crisis, reach out to a crisis line in your country. You do not have to have it all figured out before asking for help. The only thing that matters right now is that you reach out to someone. Stage 12. Total burnout exhaustion. This is the final stage, complete mental, physical, and emotional collapse. Your body and mind simply shut down. This can manifest as a total breakdown, a serious physical health crisis, complete inability to function at work, and in the most severe cases, thoughts of self-harm. This is the body's last resort. It has been sending signals since stage 1, and they have gone unheard. Now it has forced a full stop. This is not a moment of failure. It is a moment of reckoning. Someone who collapses at their desk ends up in the hospital from exhaustion-related illness, or has a complete emotional breakdown that requires them to take an extended leave of absence. Some people describe it as just not being able to anymore. not in any specific way, but in every way, all at once. At this stage, the only solution is complete rest, removal from the triggering environment, and comprehensive professional care. This is not the time to think about your career, your deadlines, or what others will think. This is the time to survive and recover. With the right support, medical, therapeutic, and relational, people do recover from stage 12, but it takes time, patience, and a willingness to rebuild life differently than before. These 12 stages don't all look the same, and they don't move at the same speed for everyone. Some people spend years in the early stages without ever tipping over. Others move through them faster than they realize. The warning signs were never meant to be dramatic. That's what makes them so dangerous. It's not always a breakdown. Sometimes it's just quietly caring less, sleeping worse, and slowly becoming someone you don't quite recognize. So the real takeaway isn't to panic. It's to pay attention. Catching yourself at stage 2 is a conversation with your manager. Ignoring it until stage 11 is a medical crisis. If you felt a weight in your chest watching this, please hear me when I say, you are not broken. You are not weak. You have just been carrying too much, for too long, alone. Burnout is not a personal failure. It is a systemic response to an unsustainable way of living and working, and it is something you can come back from.